Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. I've got a video going for YouTube, and I've got you guys up here live. I put the verses up in the description so that if you want to follow along, you can. I just had this idea. I have not preached a sermon in over 2 years, about 2.5 years. So I thought, I would go ahead and come on, because I just felt like there was some things that I have a lot of people that have been on my Facebook that don't know a whole lot about me. They see me post some things and like, what is she talking about? Why does she, say things? I have been ordained since June 8th of 2010, so it's been 9 years. So it's been quite a while. Yes, I'm sitting in front of where I normally do my ring bomb party, so you're going to see my stuff back there. I wanted to start out today. There are so many people on my Facebook and in my family, and I see other people's families doing it, fighting and arguing, and there's so much division. And there's a Bible verse that I kind of want to bring up towards the end, a couple of them. And then I wanted to start out this morning with, I know there's a lot of people that are like, okay, you tried to commit suicide. I've been suicidal since I was probably, the earliest I can remember is 9 years old. So once you become saved by Christ, you are in His hands, and no man can take you away. And you can find that in John verse 10, or John chapter 10, verse 28. And I've lost my page. Hold on just a second, because I want to read that to you. And basically, what Jesus is saying is He's telling you that once you have chosen to accept Him into your life, you will always be forgiven. And no man can take you out of His hand. Hi, Cindy. How are you? I'm just doing a short, brief sermon this morning. Some people may not like it. Some people will. That's okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about John, and it's in the New Testament, and it's chapter 10, verse 28. And I've lost my place already. And he's talking about the division among the Jews, and there's so many things that are going on. And he's saying in verse 27, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Verse 28, and I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. I've had so many people say, because you've tried to commit suicide, you cannot be a minister. And I've had several people stand up for me and say, bring this verse up and say, that is wrong, because I do have problems, and I have been saved, and this verse here talks about how once you are saved, hi Alan, that, like it says in here, that no man can take that away from you. And we're going to go to one of my favorite verses in the Bible. And it's 2 Samuel, and it's in the Old Testament. So if anybody wants to follow along, they can kind of find it. And I know my page numbers are not going to help anybody. It's 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 7. And it is David, and he is speaking to the Lord. And at verse 4, he's saying, I will call unto the Lord who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from thine enemies. When the waves of death compassed me, the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. The sorrows of hell compassed me about, the snares of death prevented me. Verse 7. In my distress I called upon the Lord and cried to my God, and he did hear my voice out of his temple, and my cry did enter into his ears. There's a lot of people that feel that in order to pray or to ask for God's help, you have to be in a church, or you have to be in a proper place to pray or ask for God's help. And as you'll see in this verse, you don't need to be. And it doesn't have to be a proper, full-out prayer. And there's times where people have been in distress, and it could be something just shouting out, God, please help me, because something's happened, car accident or something, and something unexplainable happens. They're saved. They don't know, how in the world did I get out of that? And like this says in 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 7, in my distress I called upon the Lord. And it doesn't matter how your call is. It can be as simple, help me. He's going to hear you. And cried to my God, and he did hear my voice out of his temple, and my cry did enter into his ears. And your cry does not have to be a vocal cry. He's going to hear you whether you cry out loud or to yourself. He's going to know. He's going to know. And again in Jeremiah, which again is in the Old Testament, verse 33:3. Let me find the right page. I wanted to go on earlier because I was hoping to catch Cindy on. This is where the word of Lord came to Jeremiah the second time while he was shut up in the court of the prison. And the Lord is answering Jeremiah. And it says in verse 33:3, where the Lord answers Jeremiah, he says, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. Hi, Penny. How are you? Sometimes you're going to call out to God, or you're going to pray, or you're going to ask for something. And you may get your prayers answered. It may not be when you want them. It may not be how you want them. Or it could be completely unrelated, and you realize later it may not be what you asked for, but yet you realize this is better than what I actually asked for. So again, Jeremiah verse 33:3 is where God answers. And he says, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. Another verse that I wanted to talk to, like I said, I was going to keep this kind of short, and it's in the New Testament, and it's Luke 19, verse 41. And it's where Jesus is at Mount Olive, and he is looking down at Jerusalem, and he's getting ready to enter Jerusalem. And this is just before he is crucified. And the reason I wanted to read this is because there's so many times, and I used to do this a lot, I'd be driving around or be someplace, and I would just be looking while I'm driving, and I'd see something so beautiful, or see something, and I just have to stop and get out of the car and look, take pictures of it, whether it be a sunset, looking across the mountains, and just get out and reflect and look at the beauty of it. And so many people do not do that anymore. There's so many people that just drive and go about their day, and they don't stop and take time to actually get out and look and enjoy it and reflect on it. And this is where Jesus is about to enter Jerusalem, and he's looking down at Jerusalem, and he's thinking about how Jerusalem has changed so much, and how they don't even see the destruction that they're about to go through, and what they've become. And the reason I'm kind of bringing this up is because so many families have pretty much done the same thing. They don't realize how much they've destroyed each other, how much they alienate somebody. They build up that wall around each other, and they, brick by brick, stone by stone, they alienate somebody. They like all gather up against one person for no reason. They'll pick somebody out. Somebody will like say, I don't like this person. All of a sudden, everybody builds a band against one person, and then brick by brick, they destroy them. They just for no reason, for no absolute reason. So I'm going to read to you. It's in the New Testament, Luke, and it's chapter 19, verse 41. And I'm probably going to read a little more than verse 41. I'll probably go back to verse 37. And he was come to nigh, even now, at the descent of the Mount of Olives. The whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they have seen. Verse 38, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. Verse 39, and some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. Verse 40, and he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. Sorry about that, that was my son. Verse 41, and when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it. Verse 42, saying, If thou hadst known, even thou at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. They don't see what they're doing. They are pretty much blinded. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee on every side. Verse 44, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knowest not the time of thy visitation. So there, Jesus is upon the Mount Olive, and he's looking down, and he's about to enter Jerusalem, and he knows what he's about to face, and he sees that all that beauty and all that what used to be is no longer there, and he's standing on the outside looking in, and he can see the changes, but none of them can see the changes. None of them basically really don't care anymore. So that's something maybe families, I see that happening with so many families, in my own family. I see it every day on Facebook, every day. And there's something I kind of would like everyone to reflect on, and it has to do with forgiveness. I want everyone to take a minute to just try to, I hear everyone, well, I'll never forgive that person. I'll never forgive anyone for what they've done to me. How can you forgive somebody? If you can't start forgiving people, I know you'll never forget what's been done to you, but if you can't ever start forgiving people, you will never be able to become a happier person, no matter what's happened to you. And in the New Testament, in Matthew chapter 18, verse 22, Jesus is talking to Peter, and Peter's asking about forgiving. And in verse 21, then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Chapter 22, Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Chapter 23, therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. A lot of people would stop and think, oh, 7 times 70, that's, whatever. The 7 times 70 in the Bible is an eternity number. It's like infinity. You would forever forgive the people that sin against you, your family, your brothers, your neighbors. And I'm not saying forgive them if they've done something how would I want to word that? I know it's hard to forgive people for some things that they've done. But the more you learn to maybe forgive yourself, for starters, and forgiving will come along easier as you go along. But I wanted to kind of come on today and read some verses from the Bible, and share a few of my favorite verses. And my favorite 2 is again, and I'll read them again. And my favorite 2 verses is we're in 2 Samuel, and again in Jeremiah, where in 2 Samuel 22:7, in my distress I called upon the Lord, and I cried to my God, and he did hear my voice out of his temple, and my cry did enter into his ears. And in Jeremiah 33:3, where the Lord answers and says, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. So I want to leave you with those things. Hi, Steve. This is going to be posted, Steve, so go ahead and watch it over. And I just wanted to come on and I haven't done a sermon in over 2 years. So I kind of did a real quick one. I didn't do a whole lot. I thought I'd share a few things. Hi, Jerry. How are you? I haven't seen you in ages. But, yeah, I thought I'd come on and do a real quick sermon. I want to thank everybody for coming on. I'm going to reach down and just end my YouTube video I was doing. I want to thank everybody on my YouTube channel.